Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Tribe Talks. Really excited to sit down with, and I keep saying sit down for these. I'm standing up, you're sitting down. Either way, that's the virtual world, I guess. But I'm excited to have this conversation with Gill Jackson today. Jill, thanks for joining me.
Hi, thanks. Welcome.
So, Jill, I want us to start off with, and this is the big question, but I want to start off with your why. Why do you like to help people so much? What was it that kind of drove you in that direction with the counseling and everything?
Oh, that's a big question, yeah. um, the why, I love it. I love helping people, and I always struggled when I was younger myself with anxiety in particular, but some low mood in there as well. So through my teenage years, I think I didn't realize that's what it was, but I really struggled with it, and I just wanted to help other people to overcome those struggles as well.
I love that. It's always funny. People say like the doctor heal thyself type thing. That is what pushes people in those directions a lot of the time.
Absolutely.
What was it that got you on this specific path? Because I always like with the more like entrepreneurial type problem solving, you could go a whole bunch of different directions with it. What was it that drove you this way?
Absolutely. Well, my path's a bit all over the place. So I specialize in anxiety and depression, and because of those reasons, because that's what I experienced when I was younger and overcame. And it wasn't a smooth road to overcoming it either, because I didn't realize that was what it was. And then more recently, I've started to support a lot of people with neurodiversities and particularly ADHD. And again, that's because I didn't realize that I had ADHD. So I just thought I was quirky, and different and a bit forgetful, and, did lots of masking myself. I met my partner and he has ADHD, and then we have created our own little tribe, actually. And we're very neurospicy, I like to call us. There's lots of neurodiversities going on in our household, and that made me go, right. And that's eventually led me to qualify to actually do ADHD coaching, assessments, and diagnosis here in the UK.
On the diagnosis side of it, I actually think that's a really interesting piece because, when we talk about, living with anxiety or depression or really anything, there's a value to labeling and understanding. And then there's also this kind of other side of that coin, which is the almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy type thing of I am depressed, therefore my depression gets worse, and I kind of steer into it a bit. Could you talk some about kind of teasing those two out? And I know I'm getting to the therapy questions, but I guess that's just where the conversation's going.
Don't worry. I know it's really tricky, isn't it? I work with people that have a diagnosis and people that don't. And either is valid. I work with people that self-diagnose or that seek a formal diagnosis. And yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Some people are like, whoa, nope, I don't need that label. I don't want that label. And there is that fear, absolutely, that when we start to label ourselves, absolutely becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and we become that, and it becomes part of our identity. But also there's the flip side, that for some people, having that label, that, it's this, gives them that insight. They can research it, they can look into it, and they go, it's not just me. This is a thing, and somebody tells me it's a thing, and it's just part of me. So you can almost detach yourself from it and be like, well, anxiety affects me in this way. Depression impacts me in that way. So it's like almost like a separate thing that just happens to you, that you experience, but it isn't hopefully part of you. So there's two sides to it, and everyone is different, definitely.
So to kind of drill in on that, so that's a bit of like the nuance there is it's the I am affected by this is not me. Is that kind of the distinguishment you make?
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's what we should always be kind of aiming for, and how to think about these diagnoses that people inevitably collect as the years go on. Rather than it becoming part of your identity, it's something that impacts you. It's something that happens. But you can also hopefully learn ways to control it.
Yeah, I can just say with myself, I know I found the way I tend to label it for myself is it's a bad brain day. The chemicals ain't flowing the way they're supposed to be, and that's a
Nice.
good way for
Nice.
me of it's like, hey, it's over here. That's what it is. I'm gonna do my
Yep.
best today, and I think it kind of prevents that self-fulfilling prophecy like you're talking about.
Yeah.
One aspect I'd love to kind of get into is
Mhm.
you use this phrase of like it's not just me, and I think that's such an
Mhm.
important thing to understand that other people go through this. But there's a little bit of a trap there. And I've seen this on our podcast talking with a lot of veterans talking about PTSD and things. There's this like race to the bottom a bit of, my depression is worse than Jill's and Jill's is worse than such and such. And there's this weird race to the bottom that happens. Could you talk some about either, why that happens and then maybe, how we can avoid that in these conversations? Because the conversations are very important, but that's such a big pit hole for a lot of people, pitfall.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's a tricky one, isn't it? And I think people generally are quite competitive. And that's something that fuels us, and it can be really helpful in lots of scenarios. But when it comes to health, be that physical health or mental health, actually it can be a problem, and we can end up making comparisons and almost wanting this one-upmanship. Like, my depression's way worse than theirs, so theirs isn't valid. And actually, everything is relative, isn't it? Yes, we can always make these comparisons and sort of say, oh, well, my hunger isn't valid because there's children starving in Africa. And there is, and that's valid and true. But actually, I'm still hungry. So just because one person's experience on paper might look worse than another's, everyone's experience is valid and it's real to them. And that's actually part of what therapy is about. It's meeting people where they're at and being open-minded and non-judgmental and not doing those comparisons, because that's not helpful, is it?
No, definitely not. What's the phrase? Comparison is the thief of all joy. I think I got that right. But there's a lot of truth there, isn't there?
Very much. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to kind of shift into a little bit of like the leadership and business side of things, because you're not the what I would picture like this is the school counselor who's just showing up talking with the kids and those kind of things. You got the business as well. I would love to hear how this perspective influences your leadership perspective, because I think that people talk about like the new age and being modern. Like I say this all the time with coaching rugby. Of it's like you have these like new age coaches where it's like you're worried about your players, you're not just running them into the ground and those kind of things. But at the same time, there has to be a happy medium there a bit where you can recognize where people are, meet them where they are, and you still got to be the boss sometimes. How do you walk that line?
It's difficult, isn't it? It really is. But actually, it's really important. I work with a lot of businesses in their sort of well-being strategy. And this is the conversations that we're having. Actually, you want your staff, you want them to show up, you want them to be on time, ideally, do all the hours, to go over and above, beyond their job role, and to put all this effort in. But actually, if you're not giving back and supporting them, they can't do that. We need to have flexible working policies, and we need to think about people's mental health as well as their physical health, because it all impacts on their ability to do the job. So I support lots of businesses to look at that and how can they best meet those needs, support their staff, be good leaders, and support the staff in lots of different ways as well. So physical health, mental health, not just how are we going to promote them and how are we going to, increase their salary, which is also important, of course.
Yes, definitely is. Talking about the well-being strategy, I love that phrasing there. What do you think is something that a lot of businesses or leaders miss in that? Maybe like this one like easier path with it. I always think of whenever we talk like the well-being inside of a business, I always think of like the joke of like Google with the ping pong tables and it's like all this kind of stuff. My dad, you haven't met Otis yet, but he always joke about it's like you got the kegerator and the ping pong table in the break room, and it's like there's this weird idea of what it looks like, but at the same time there is a legitimate strategy there. I would love to hear what are some tips to help businesses with that without the kegerator and the ping pong table.
which might also be good for some companies.
You got to know your team, right?
Absolutely. That's really important to know what works for them. And I think, think outside the box if at all possible. But the main thing would be to talk to your staff. What do they need? And this could be a moving target as well. So one set of staff might think one particular thing is really important, like flexible working. So the ability that they can do their hours, but whenever in the day, because actually they've got the school run to do. That might be one group of staff, but equally you might also have a group of staff that are at a totally different point in their life. And actually they don't need that. And so something else is important to them, like they're taking early retirement, maybe, the plan to retirement. So talk to your staff, survey them, find out what's important to them, and make sure you have a strategy that actually supports each of them, that talks to these different groups. So you might end up having quite a varied strategy, and you might end up offering lots of different things. I know companies that I've worked with who offer all kinds of things. So like counseling being one of them, and mentoring and coaching, but also maybe massages. They get a massage therapist in every few months who just...
I would love that.
Just a full day. So you sat at your desk working away, and then you pop off and into another room and have a massage. How amazing is that? So if you can offer a suite of options, that will help to meet each individual one of your staff members and where they're at in their life.
I'm aware that this might launch into your sales pitch, which is all right, of course, Jill. But what as the leader, that takes a lot of time. What is the return on investment? What's my ROI there? How can I effectively make time in my schedule to go sit down with everybody and get that list of, okay, well, Jill wants a massage, Camden needs a nap every day at 2, and going through like that. That's a lot of work, Jill. What's your thoughts there? Yeah. It
is. So there's loads of businesses, loads of individuals that could do that for you, or you could set up an online sort of survey. There's loads. I won't mention all the different brands, but there's loads out there. Quick Google, you can find all these different brands you just pop in your questions and they will send it all out for you. They'll collate it, and it saves lots of time. But there's lots of different companies out there that will offer whole packages as well, that'll do it all for you. So they might be an option. It depends on the business size, doesn't it? If there's only 10 or if there's, tens of thousands of people.
What is your thought on the size difference there? Because that's something we talk about all the time with leadership. Is it's one thing to be a leader around the coffee table with 5 people and all know each other. I know exactly. I'd made the joke about Camden needs his nap at 2 p.m. If we're working together every day around that table, I take my nap every day at 2 p.m. That's not hard. We're in that company at 10,000. You don't even know my name, if anything, about let alone my nap schedule. So what has been your experience with those larger businesses and how to implement these same kind of well-being strategies there?
Yeah, again, tricky, isn't it? It's difficult. Yeah. But actually then you're really reliant upon good managers, good leaders within the business. So you treat them the same as a smaller business, but you're just almost dealing with lots of small businesses. So each department, you need to deal with each leader and hopefully actually get them up to speed as well. So there might be some need there along, training and understanding of actually how to communicate with their staff and what their staff might need. So I look at it as little parts of the business rather than the business as a whole. Although, of course, you do need to look at that overall strategy. And as you said, return on investment is so important, isn't it?
What's your thoughts on measuring that? Because that's one conversation we've had a bunch around leadership and those kind of things, is that everyone knows what it feels like to have a good leader, but that bottom line can get a little bit trickier, at least in the short term, a lot of the time. What are your thoughts on trying to measure that ROI for, well-being like this?
Well, yeah. I have lots of thoughts on it, to try and minimize them.
We got time. We got time, Jill. Don't worry.
It's hard to do, isn't it? Because a lot of it's just people's feelings, but that is valid. So you can ask for feedback. You can ask for kind of reviews almost on everything. The biggest thing that you can measure is actually how long people are staying in the business. Like, how big is the turnover? Because we know that people stay when people stay for people, basically. When they have a good manager, a good leader, they're committed and they will stay. And when they feel part of the business and they feel valued and important, they'll stay. Even if the job isn't quite right for them and there's some other things that are difficult, they'll have the balance of they feel valued and important. As soon as somebody doesn't feel valued, they don't feel important, or they have a really manager, they're gone. They're looking for something new. Definitely. So that's something definitely to look at as well. And also when you're looking at management styles within a business, really important to look at too.
Oh, definitely. One piece of that comes to mind, to get more specific version of that question, because we had this conversation on a podcast we recorded last week, was the idea of like the daily scorecards with this kind of thing. Where do you land on that as far as, surveys? Of course, self-reported data is, iffy in of itself, but also if it's only data you can get, it's only data you can get. What are your thoughts there as far as trying to measure where your team is at when it comes to, well-being like this?
Yeah, well, it's worth a go, isn't it? Definitely. And like you say, sometimes it's the only data that we can get, as long as you make it easy for your staff. So they don't want to, log into work or show up at the office, however it looks, and then they've got a lot of things, additional things above their job to do. If they can literally just push a button or, click a link super fast, and that gives you the data that you need, brilliant.
Love that. We talked some about, the advantages of well-being strategy and like, having that strategy and the tips kind of there. I want to flip that around a bit. And what are some things that companies get wrong that you've seen? Maybe like the biggest mistakes, or actually biggest mistake makes it sound catastrophic. So if you have that story, we could go there, I guess. But maybe more common mistake might be the better one. But if you want to answer both, I'm happy.
I think the biggest mistake I see is businesses looking good on paper, but not following through. So they'll say, these are our mission and our vision and our values, and we do this and this and this for our staff. And you look at it and you look at it on their shiny website, and you talk to the sort of the really senior members of staff, and it sounds brilliant. But then when you actually talk to the staff, there's a disparity. It doesn't match. And they're not feeling what's being said. So usually that's, again, leadership, it's management there that need to actually, follow all that through. If you're saying that people are the center of your business, then they need to feel like they're at the center of your business and that they're valued. So that's where I often see there's an issue. And then when I'm doing my counseling sessions, I'm like, it's really hard, really, really hard to see people not feeling valued and respected and wanted in, their place of work, where we spend a huge amount of time every week.
Oh yeah. Let's take the counseling. We're kind of going down with it. Let's go up the org chart a bit. What do you think is the reason that those leaders, those managers are, giving that lip service and not actually following through? What do you think's going on with them?
Oh, I think it depends on the business entirely. They might feel like they don't have time. They might not understand or have really truly bought into the values and the ethos of the business. Perhaps they've just been told it and they're like, okay, great, but they don't really feel it themselves. Or maybe they've just been put into those positions because, I don't know, they've worked there 10 years, so they've been promoted and they've not actually
the whole idea of like the best mechanic is now the manager, and he's like, I just want to work on cars, man.
Exactly. Yeah. So just because they're good at their job with doing whatever it is doesn't mean they're going to be a really good manager and a good leader, and they might not have been given those skills. And that's often the case. I find that actually, it's great, they know their product or their system or whatever it is inside out. They can give you all the answers, but they don't know how to hold a difficult conversation with a staff member. So that's a problem, isn't it? So they need some basic training in how to handle some of these conversations, how to support people, some HR skills and coaching skills as well.
We talked a lot around ROI. I kind of want to just like bottle that up into one bit here. What is your, and actually I kind of joked earlier about the sales pitch, but what is the sales pitch for this kind of work inside of a business? Why does it matter? What is that ROI? If you could kind of sum that up, why should businesses care?
Well, like I say, people stay for people. If they feel supported and valued and wanted in the business, they'll stay. They'll stay. They will go over and above. When you've got that deadline looming, they're going to stay that extra half an hour to make sure that report is in or whatever it is. They are going to be committed. They're going to be on time. They're going to show up. They will have reduced sickness. So they will be in the workplace more, and they will put more effort in. They're not just going to show up, spend a lot of time having a coffee, quite a bit of time going to the toilet, making excuses to not actually do the work. So you're going to have better staff, happier staff, a higher retention level and lower sickness.
I love that, Jill. Jill, how do folks find you, get in contact with you? Who are the right folks to call you? I guess not just open it up to everybody out there, but talk to me about how folks can find you.
Okay. So I have a website and of course an email address as well. So they can find me on there, but I'm on all the different social media platforms as well. YouTube, of course, but Facebook, Instagram. So I'm quite easily found. I work with people with anxiety and depression and neurodiversities, but I also work with businesses, as we've said. Any business, any sector, as long as they're interested in well-being, and I'm happy to support them.
And what is the website there? You mentioned you had the website. What's the URL?
Yeah. So it's gilljacksoncounseling.com.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, Jill, thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun.
No problem at all. It's been lovely. Thank you. Welcome. I'm Gill Jackson and I'm here with Camden. So I would love you to tell me a little bit, Camden, about Tribe and Purpose, if you can do. So firstly, could you tell me a little bit of background about the business?
Yeah, so it's a father-son business, and it's myself and my dad, and we got a great team of VAs and folks helping us out as well. You can't do it all alone. Partially the name Tribe and Purpose, of course, but really what it is our kind of origin story on it. I like to tell folks, my dad got out of the military and he did what a lot of veterans do and kind of slotted in at that middle management job at the big government contracting company. For him, it was Lockheed Martin, and he was like, okay, I'm around all these other veterans. Why don't I like this job? Why does this job suck so much? And what he realized was, because at the time he was coaching my high school rugby club, he was kind of looking at these two and had saw the glaring difference of how much he was enjoying the coaching versus how much he wasn't enjoying the job itself. And what he realized was the thing that he enjoyed about the coaching was the same thing he enjoyed about his time in the Army. It was the leadership. It was the development of the boys that he was coaching. And so eventually that led him into the executive coaching space and started Tribe and Purpose. And then, my background of rugby coaching and entrepreneurship, it was a natural, we were talking business every day anyway. I was like, all right, might as well come on board with you and help out. And it's really, what I always tell people, the why behind it is we're just a couple leadership nerds who want to create a legacy of leaders. We love what we do. It comes relatively easy to us. For me especially, like I got all of the Otis leadership lessons my entire life. I've got 29 years of Otis leadership. There's a lot of folks out there who never had a leader like that in their life and didn't get to learn from them. And so to me, it's just really important to take those leadership lessons and pass them on to as many people as we can.
Great. Fantastic. And you see the passion as well when you're talking. Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
I was gonna say I do love it and I love talking about it. It's a lot of fun.
Great. Good. So what sorts of businesses or individuals do you and your dad support?
Yeah, so we work a lot in the government contracting space, and that is because they have a not just because my dad's background there and being a veteran, that of course helps. There's a lot of veterans in the government contracting space, but more so it's because they experience something really unique that a lot of other industries don't, which is this really rapid growth rate a lot of the time, and then they also will experience this big shift there, where if you're a small business and you're getting these set asides from the government contract, they basically make it a little bit easier for you to win those contracts. Well, that runs out eventually, and then all of a sudden you are competing with the Lockheed Martins and these huge businesses. And so that growth rate combined with that sharp uptake in competition means that you need to have your leadership. You need to have that all built. What we've seen with some of the businesses we've worked with is almost, and none of them have fully collapsed under their weight, but the way I like to put it is they get their success and they win that big contract, and then they win one more, and then all of a sudden they're growing, and they don't have the systems and processes in place to sustain that growth. So that's really our sweet spot in the market. And also, again, I love it because it's such a unique situation as far as business growth goes, where you can have it so quick that you don't have the leadership structure underneath to kind of sustain that success. And then also I'll throw out just started a program coaching solopreneurs, which I'm very excited about because I'll be doing most of the coaching in that. And it's all about just the building a foundation of leadership so you can be a successful CEO. There's a lot of entrepreneurs who they might be great entrepreneurs. They might have brilliant business ideas. They might have a book just like this, just full of business ideas. And then they don't have leadership skills. And so they start the business and it goes really, really well. And then they reach a point where they're like, oh, if I want this to be successful, I have to leave. And so the CEO Jumpstart is the name of that program, and it's just designed to help people to not hit that wall at some point. Because if I have to work on my new analogies, so I always say, the baby of your business. I had my baby 4 months ago, so it feels weird to use that analogy now, but you don't want to raise that baby up for 5 years and then realize that you're not the right fit for it, right? That's a tough place to be mentally. So I think that's a really important thing to build that foundation of leadership so you can be successful as a CEO as well as an entrepreneur.
Great. How exciting. And congratulations, of course,
Thank
on
you.
becoming a dad.
Thank you. Remind me after, and I'll send you a couple pictures of Miss Clementina.
Amazing.
She's adorable.
Oh, I bet she is. How exciting. There's so much going on for you guys, isn't there? Lovely. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and I think that's another piece, talking about, tribe and purpose and what we do, that we just on the other half of this joint interview. And folks, if you're just watching my half, go onto the 10X Your Team YouTube page. You can watch Jill's half also. But, we were talking about the mental health aspect and, understanding who you are. Well, I can tell you for myself and for Otis, we are the type of folks we got to be chasing. I joke about chasing rabbits. We chase 5 rabbits at a time. And we're always all over the place with that. But I think that's an important thing to understand about yourself. If you understand who you are, then you can lead yourself the way you want. I remember years ago talking with my dad while I was still part-time with Tribe and Purpose, and I had another business venture, Verby, doing virtual events during COVID. And I was like, gosh, I feel like I'm all over the place and going through this. And he was he put on his coaching hat, or maybe his dad hat. I don't know, we'll have to ask him. But he came to me and said, look, Camden, you could quit that. You could quit coaching rugby. You could quit with the Engage Foundation. But I think you would be happy for about 2 weeks, and then you'd go crazy. Because your mind wouldn't be able to stick on that one task for that long. And I think, talking about leading yourself, that's that kind of key element there is understanding who you are and what you really want and not lying to yourself on that. I think that's such a big piece.
Yes, absolutely. And lots of people do, don't they? Kid themselves that actually it needs to be this way. And
it's the two things that come to mind for me with that, and this is one. If you watch the 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis show on YouTube, we like to joke that we are great at paraphrasing quotes, and so I'm not sure. I think this is a Marcus Aurelius. I'm not totally sure, but the easiest and deadliest sin is to lie to yourself. It is so easy to lie to yourself and to trick yourself into thinking you want certain things and all this. I've done it with my coach, and I've worked with a bunch of college athletes in transition coaching. And there's this kind of funny thing. Ooh, I'm out of focus there. We'll get that back. Yeah. But Is that distracted? But no, I don't know why I'm still out of focus. That's funny. But anyway, authenticity here. No, there we go. That's what happens when I move around too much. Talking about too many things going on, right? No, talking to some of these college athletes and kind of transitioning into the real world as I talk with them about it. There's this kind of funny thing where you go, and I've seen it happen both directions. One, where you're trying to fit yourself into a mold that you see from someone else, and you're like, okay, well, if I want to be an entrepreneur, if I want to be successful, I have to wake up at 5 a.m. and I've got to get all this stuff done and have this perfect morning routine. And I'm going to spend all day working, and I'm going to spend all night working, all this kind of stuff. And then there's the other end of the spectrum where they go, you know what, Jill? I did some reflection, just like you said, and I decided I need to sleep till 10 o'clock every morning. It's like, oh, you're probably lying to yourself a bit there. You might just be, that might be your sleep schedule, but you're probably tricking yourself a little bit. And both of those can happen. And I think that's what makes it such a insidious thing, going back to that, Marcus Aurelius quote of you can lie to yourself about what you want and lie to yourself about what you need, and they can look completely different from each other. And I think that is the challenge there. And what I always tell all my clients is that's the importance of experimentation and taking notes and trying to pay attention to how you're actually feeling, so that even if you trick yourself once, you don't keep tricking yourself. I'm a to-do list guy. We talk about chasing all those rabbits. The only way I could do that is my to-do list, right? And Absolutely. I'll do weekly outcomes, and I do daily reflections and reviews and all this kind of thing, because I already showed my notebook once. I'm a notebook guy. I'm in there every single day. And the funny thing, yeah, right? Hey, if you got to organize the thoughts somehow, find the way that you can do it, right? Find what works for you, going back to experimentation. But then I told this story to a client a couple weeks ago that I one day was like, am I just wasting time with my to-do list and all these things? I spend so much time on it every day. So you know what, Jill? I spent a week without it, and gosh, it turns out I need it. So that experimentation is so key.
And that's okay.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Some people use loads of apps. Some people use a to-do list. Like, we're all different, aren't we? But
find something. Just find something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Lovely. So this is a really off-piste question for you.
Awesome.
I was just wondering, as you were talking about all these amazing things, what the values are around tribe and purpose. Would you say you have any company values behind all this?
Otis is going to watch this, and he's like, Otis is going to watch this. He's like, damn it, Camden, why didn't you memorize all the values I talked about? But no, it's, first and foremost, family is really important to us as a father-son company. That legacy of leaders that I think for us, we view that legacy is definitely, deep inside of a family, but it of course can branch out. So, but family and legacy are really important to us. And then I think the other, without kind of going just to the company name, tribe and purpose, we love impact, and we love people that are trying to make an impact. And I think that's the thing. I joke about, I love this, and I'm a leadership nerd, and I would do this for free and all that kind of stuff. And it's because I like to see the impact I have on folks, and I like to see the impact they have on the world. I'm an optimist because of conversations with folks like you who are out there trying to make the world a better place. And I have conversations like this, multiple times a day, and it's an amazing thing. So I think it comes back to me for family and impact, which I guess is just another way of saying tribe and purpose. So that probably makes sense. But Otis, let me know in the comments if I got that right. It sounds like it's on brand.
It was a perfect answer. Well done. Yeah, lovely. Oh, fantastic. Excellent. So is there anything else that you think you would like to add to this chat?
Yeah, and I think maybe I might wind up asking you a question with this too. And again, folks, if you want to watch the whole thing, that'll be on the 10 Extra Team YouTube page. But we were talking around the mental health side of things, and I just think how important that is to being an effective leader and understanding yourself. I made the joke on your half there about the bad brain day. Is kind of the way I put it, where I'm like, look, it just ain't working right today, and that's I'm going to be at a limited capacity, and that's what it is. Well, when you understand that for yourself, you can give yourself a realistic expectation for what that looks like while still pushing forward. because I think that's the really big thing for me, and you kind of joke about the old school versus new age stuff. And yeah, that's part of the fun of our podcast is because, my dad is a freaking Green Beret for 25 years. He's the grumpy old man. I come in playing devil's advocate. It's a lot of fun. But the interesting thing that you get from that is that there's usually an answer kind of in the middle there. He would talk about, the idea of, well, you just got to, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You can just get back to work. You got to push through and all this kind of things. And, I think we all know that that's definitely not entirely true. But also, if you just lay in bed all day, you ain't never going to get better. And I think that it's an important thing when you talk about self-leadership and leading yourself, of trying to still push yourself. You got to love yourself. You got to care for yourself, all those kind of things. But care for yourself enough to be ambitious at the same time and still have that fire, because that's what makes you go make that impact, go live with purpose. And I think that kind of nuance there, I think is something really key when it comes to that intersection of, self-leadership and the mental health side of things. And like I said, I do want to kind of throw that back over to you, actually. I know technically you're supposed to be interviewing me right now, but what would you add to that? Because I think that is such a key lesson for folks in business, and especially that solopreneur, because that's a really tough, very lonely spot to be in.
It can be, absolutely. And that's where you fall back on your own tribe, isn't it? Be that family
Exactly.
or friends, of course. It might be your chosen family. But yeah, definitely. I agree. Sometimes it is hard to get out of bed. And I think sometimes we can sit with that. We can wallow in it. That's all right for a short time. So, you feel really low or very anxious or whatever it is that's going on, sit with it, lay with it in bed for a bit.
Yeah.
And then we need to, push through, be gentle with ourselves and understanding. But actually, you do have to get out of bed. At some point, you do have to get on with things, with life, with looking after yourselves and anyone else that's involved in your life, like children.
No kidding.
So it's
What
difficult.
do you have a trick or a mechanism for that? Like we were joking about the to-do list and all those kind of things. I'm one, so this, and I am well aware that this is a thing that has to do with my depression and whatnot, but I know, I say it's so funny. You're over there being all scientific and I'm like, bad brain day, depression and whatnot. It's this like, look, do I want to lay in bed? Yeah. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to set a timer and I'll fall asleep probably, but it's like when I get up, I'm starting my day again and I'm going to go work out. I'm going to do dishes. I'm going to do something to kind of get the day going. That's my system for it. What are your thoughts there? What's a mechanism you like with that?
So for me, when I'm struggling, and something that I recommend to some of my clients, if I'm just struggling to get out of bed, I do a countdown. So I do, right, okay, I'm gonna get up. So 3, 2, 1, up. And I just throw the covers off and force myself out of bed. So just kind of roll out of bed and just make myself, because sometimes you feel like you can't do it and there's so many reasons why you can't, and you've just got to give yourself a little countdown and do it. And once you're up, it's okay. You can do it, absolutely. The other thing I always just mention as well very quickly is the first thing you do on a morning is what your brain will crave for the rest of the day. So that's always one to really be mindful of. So, because when we're in bed and we don't want to get up and we just can't face it today, don't pick up the phone. Don't pick up that laptop, that tablet, that phone and doom scroll. No, because you're instantly telling your brain this is what we want, and all day you'll just want to sit and scroll. And then you find in your evening as well, you'll sit and you'll scroll for hours, and then you're like, it's bedtime, I've achieved nothing. So get up and do something nice. If you haven't got much energy, that's okay. Just go stand outside for a couple of minutes. If you've got lots of energy, great. Go for a walk, go for a run, do something, have a shower, do something productive, and you will absolutely feel better. If you can release those endorphins by moving your body, there's definitely brownie points there, and your brain will feel good and your body will feel good, and you'll have a better day. Definitely.
I love that. And I'll add in a bit of wisdom that I got from one of our podcast guests recently. She was talking about her battle with breast cancer when she was really deep in the trenches there. And she would talk about the value of just having one thing for the day. And I think, especially in that circumstance, just having that one thing to push for, and then it's like, hey, look, I got up and I got the mail today. And then you have that win for the day. And then the thing I add on to it when I talk with, my clients is then it's like, and then the thing is, once you get that one win, you can build for more. And you can kind of build on top of it. You can get that momentum and kind of keep moving there. And I think that's so key. And there's one more thing I kind of want to jump on. And you talking about the tribe there, even if you're by yourself, even if you're the solopreneur, right? Well, we always say it's like you're still a leader, you still have the tribe. You just got to change your definition of it a bit, right? Just because I don't have a team of people behind me setting things up to get on this great interview with you and have these conversations, just because I don't have a team like that doesn't mean I don't have a team. Right, my wife's over there taking care of our baby girl. She's part of the team. My dogs are keeping me motivated with their, all this kind of stuff. There's all sorts of things there. I got a team with it, and I think flipping that mindset helps so much because it can be such a lonely place as an entrepreneur. And when you recognize that just because you're not paying somebody doesn't mean they're not part of your team. There's people I bounce ideas off of. There's people that I just want to spend time with to relax away from work. There's all these different roles that people play, and that all contributes to my success and my motivation. So I think that's such a key piece, is recognizing that your tribe, your team isn't just who you're in business with. It's everyone around you, everyone in your circle.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Oh, lovely.
Good.
Thank you so much. So go on, tell us your website and how we find you, how we follow you.
Yeah. So you can check out, I already dropped the YouTube page. I think
did.
threw that one out like 4 times already, but that's all right. That's just what's the phrase, marketing is just a practice and memorization or something like that. So I'll just keep saying 10x your team and people will get it. But no. The best place, I actually just got one place for y'all. 10xyourteam.net. You go to there, you'll see we got the DIY, which is the podcast and all those kind of leadership tools there, all the free videos and all that kind of stuff, conversations like this. And then we have the Done With You, which is the CEO Jumpstart that I talked about for solopreneurs, as well as our team training program to build a team of leaders, which is an awesome, powerful place to be that we didn't even touch on, but that's an awesome place. And then lastly, the Done For You option of our fractional COO services that I talked about for the kind of government contracting folks that are experiencing that rapid growth. But that's the best place, 10xyourteam.net, and just find the right leadership lesson or right leadership tool for you. And then if you go to the YouTube page, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because I talk about us being a small team. I'm the one who does all the stats for the YouTube and whatnot. So folks, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button if you can. All right. But Jill, thank you so much, Jill. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has. Thanks.
And I'm going to have to trim the edge here because my mouse died. I'm glad this isn't a podcast because my dad would be making fun of me this whole time there, because it's every time there's a good conversation, I don't fidget with my mouse, and then the mouse dies, and I got to sit here waiting for it to reboot. And this happens about every 4th podcast or so. So, all right.